Hi, my name is Attorney Walter Rudolph Hnot III. I'm with Disability Resolution PA in Orlando, Orange County-based Social Security disability law firm, but we grew. We're in Brevard and other places like that now. Let's talk about this real quick. Why was I not found disabled during 2020 for SSA disability benefits? Okay, this is a huge question. So if you're like, I just want to know why they just, I feel like I'm disabled, I should have been found disabled. If this is a thing where it's an emotional thing for you and you haven't gotten over the I'm an emotionally upset person because I was denied, go watch some other fluff videos of people who aren't attorneys, who people are just like, I have the secret to the universe, and they're all crap. They're all, for the most part, crap. If you want to know the step-by-step analysis, meaning you've thrown up all the emotional stuff at this point, you are now ready to sit down and figure out how to play the game, this is going to be the video for you as to why you were found not disabled during 2020. Let's begin. There are four main ways to be found disabled. Number one is the CAL, the Compassion Allowance Listing. How does the CAL work? The CAL is basically the category of impairments that are really, really bad. I know you're sitting there thinking, I'm really, really bad. You're not. You're not dying in 6 months. Those are the CALs. CALs doesn't mean you're dying within 6 months, but those are the ones where they're really, really serious because they fall into what's considered the extreme impairments category. How do these impairment categories work? There's mild, moderate, severe or marked, and extreme. You're probably not in here. You're probably almost certainly not in here, okay? So let's talk about that. Most of the people who think they're here, they're really in moderate. They're not marked and severe, they're just in moderate. I'm just giving you a heads up. I know that hurts your emotional whatever, but that's how it works. And I'm not saying this to be mean to you. Some of you guys, I don't know why the VA people especially get all up about it, but it's just how it is, okay? I don't know why the moderates think that they're extreme, okay? Extreme, just to give you an example, is you're missing both of your legs, right? Are you missing both of your, no, okay. All right, let's go on to the next one. There are griddings. Griddings are, or grids is what we call them, vocational grids, vocational guideline grids, are basically an Excel sheet of statute options where, and I'm just going to make it simple, the older you are, the less education you have, the less skilled work you have. You know, if you have an inability to speak English, obviously that helps, or you have limited ability to use the English language, or you don't have transferable skills. Like if you had a job that had like semi-skills or skills involved, and if you don't know what SVPs are, the SSA uses a system called SVP 1 through 9, specific vocational preparations, and what they are is how long it takes for you to learn a job. So SVP 1 is like a short demonstration. SVP 9 is like 10 plus years to learn how to do this thing. SVP 1, mop the floor. SVP 9, rocket science, right? Okay, so what I mean by this is to say that if you are an SVP 3 and 4 semi-skilled or 5 to 9 skilled, you have one of those types of jobs, right? Then basically we'll look to see if those skills are transferable to other types of jobs in the national economy. And if they are transferable, then what happens is you likely won't grid out, right? And here's the other thing with grids. You pretty much have to be over 50 for them to matter. If you're, over 45, it ain't gonna happen. 50, there's good grids. 55, there's better grids. 60 plus, there's amazing grids, okay? So grids are a simplified version of a law, a statute that came out that simplified types of claims that they just always found people disabled with. The grids are basically a framework that allows an adjudicator, an ALJ, an administrative law judge, to just say, okay, they fit here, they fit here, they fit here, they fit here, boom, disabled. It's just a simplified version of the other stuff. Let's go to the more complex stuff. Listings. In order to be found disabled for a listing level allowance, you have to go through what's considered the first three elements of the 5-step sequential process. So, I had a DDS rep tell me something wrong the other day, and then I called him back, left a message, and then I never heard from him again, which is usually how that stuff goes, because they're like, oh, good point, or, oh, I hate attorneys, one of those gigs. But the bottom line is initial filing. At the initial filing level, they begin the process for doing the 5-step sequential process, which are the 5 elements of disability law, which are like your 5 checkpoints. Element 1, which is basically, SGA. Hold on, somebody's calling me. Element 1, which is SGA. What is SGA? Substantial gainful activity. Why is it relevant? It's the amount of money you can earn per month that you become ineligible for disability benefits. So if you're like super impaired but still working and earning enough money per month to be over SGA, then you're not considered disabled because you're still useful in society to make enough money as part of what you do for a living. So what that means is that you have to look up for your year, because you might want to be doing different calculations for different years, but most of you are going to say, 2020, what does SGA? And what I'd like to tell people at this point is just think of it as around $1,300, right? $1,300. It's actually slightly less than that, but for the purposes of this video, because it's 2020 and 2021, you guys will be like, oh, you said that. Just think of it as around $1,300, right? $1,300 a month that you earn, shoveling, whatevering, paperwork, blah, blah, blah. $1,300 a month that you earn and you pay taxes on to the federal government gives you 1/4 of coverage, right? That 1/4 of coverage means that, well, now we're talking about quarters of coverage, but the bottom line is with SGA, if you earn that amount, right, you earn right around that amount, the judges, they're not going to approve you, especially if you've earned it for multiple months in a row. And the reason why is that you are basically being a useful person in society. So if you're working and earning $1,300 a month and you did that for 6 months, then during that time period, you've got a problem because the judge is not going to want to approve you for any of those months and before or directly after those months. So remember, what is element 1? It's SGA. How much should I earn per month? If I'm earning money per month and I have a job, ain't going to happen. Element 2 has to do with the they call it the severity rule. They should just call it the timeline rule. The timeline rule is basically, how long has your impairment lasted? Has it lasted 12 months? Will it last 12 months? Is it terminal? The whole thing is that a severe impairment is required to basically last 12 months. So if you've got an impairment that lasts 11 months, that's not a severe impairment. Your impairment has to last 12 months. I'm going to say it one more time. Your impairment has to last 12 months or be terminal. You got to die from it. Or your impairment has already lasted 12 months. You're trying to do a closed period thing. Just watch another video on closed period disability claims. So when I talk about element 2, it's has your disability lasted 12 months? Will it last 12 months? Is it terminal? When you initially file and you're in a car accident, the expectation is it will last 12 months, hence that change in the wording. Element 3, which is the hard part. It has 2 main sections, the listing analysis section and the RFC section. The listing analysis section is where basically we look at listings, which are predefined disabilities. Think of a big list of impairments. There's actually 14 categories for adults. We'll just talk about adults right now. 14 categories, blah, 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 right? Mental categories, and the musculoskeletal category, and the respiratory category, the special senses, blah, blah, blah. There's 14 categories. And basically we look at impairments that are similar to your impairments to see how you chalk up, how you benchmark against those other particular impairments. And the terminology that's used via the statute is you have to meet, equal, or exceed. You have to meet, equal, or exceed. And then the Supreme Court said you have to have medical equivalency, which I think is better wording, but what am I, they're Supreme Court judge, I'm nobody, right? Compared to I'm nobody. I'm no RGB. So the bottom line is, when it comes down to this whole structured system, you have to meet, equal, or exceed one of those predefined disability listing, right? In the 14 categories, and then there's a big list in each one. So what does that mean? It means that you have to meet, right? Equal or exceed. You have to be worse than one, exceed. You have to equal, be the same as one, or you have to meet it, be as bad as one. Okay, that's what that really means. Meet, equal, or exceed, it was a summarized version of exactly that. That's what they really mean by that. A lot of people don't understand it. That's what it really means. You have to be worse than it, you have to be it, or you have to be like it. Okay, those are really bad. Most people don't meet, equal, or exceed a listing. And I always use the same one because people don't really understand if I talk about thyroid issues or like white matter on the brain. Or here's a simple one. Pieces missing from the body. In order to meet the listing for disability related to amputation, you got to be missing your entire leg and half your hip or both your ankles. That's pretty darn severe. I personally believe that's, as far as amputations go, extreme, but that's not how they view it. So most people think like, oh, I've got really bad COPD, but you're still able to walk a football field. You know what I mean? I can't walk a football field. You probably could. those are the types of individuals, especially the ones that are, I'm really bad, I'm going to do another video on the emotional landscape. I've already done one, but I want to cover some of the details of it. Anyway, going back to listings, that's listings. You have to meet, equal, or exceed one of those predefined lists. That's one of those 14 categories. An impairment, that's part of their big lists. Okay, if you do, there's a magical door in the 5-step sequential process which finds you disabled. Hurrah! Type in the little congratulation thing, your phone will blow up with spaghetti all over the place and glitter. So what that means is that you'll be found disabled at the step 3 process, which means, yay. You are not required to go on to the next steps because obviously if you're not working and earning SGA, right, we don't have to worry about what your past relevant work was because they're just going to find you disabled basically at that point of when you became impaired to that level, and they'll have medical evidence that'll prove that. We don't really care about what other types of jobs exist in the national economy because we already know if you meet, equal, or exceed one of those listings, you ain't going to do them. You're not going to be able to do those jobs in the DOT, Dictionary of Occupational Titles, the big book that we use to look up jobs. So what does that mean? It means that basically you can be found disabled at element 3, which happens not so often. Okay, because you got to be really, really severe to meet, equal, or exceed those listings. So what happens then if you don't meet, equal, or exceed those listings? We go on to the other way of getting a disability approval, which is called a vocational allowance. So we made it through element 1, we made it through element 2, we made it through element 3, part 1. Now we have to go to element 3, part 2. Element 3, part 2 is, can you do residual functional capacity based work? Or sorry, can you tasks? We'll call them tasks. So they're residual functional capacity tasks. Things that you could do that are like work things or home things, but more in the sense of physical and mental abilities. And they include things like, okay, well, how good are you at reaching? How long can you stand? How long can you sit? How far can you walk? How much can you lift? Mental. Can you get along with others? Can you finish what you start? Are you able to concentrate? Are you going to be off task? There are categories. You know how they have like football, basketball, hockey, lacrosse, whatever, and they give categories as to what the person's capacity to do those particular sports are, like how far can you run? How fast can you run? How many downs or throws or blah, blah. That's the same thing. It's just for an athlete version, whereas this is for a disabled impaired person version. This is called the RFC section, the residual functional capacity analysis section. Why do we have this? Because we needed to get to element 4. If we know what your physical and mental abilities are, we then compare it to your past relevant work, which is element 4. Element 4 is the PRW element. It's past relevant work. It's the work that you've done within the past 15 years. We look to see whether or not, based upon the DOT, you could still do those jobs in your current state. Or, if you can't do them, we get to go ahead and get out of element 4 and go on to element 5. Sorry, I'm a little tired. Element 5 is the tough element. But we need to get over it in order to get a vocational allowance. Vocational allowance means you can't work allowance. So we get to element 5. Element 5 is basically where, to simply put it, you are essentially unable to do other types of jobs in the national economy. That's where we need to get with it. If we can't show that you're unable to work in the national economy doing any job across state lines anywhere in the United States, including Alaska, even though you live in Florida, if we can't prove that you can't do those jobs, like, let's say, a ticket taker in Alaska, and they don't really say what state they're from because the system needs improvement. I'm trying to word things more appropriately as an attorney. It's not going well. The system needs improvement in the sections related to how impairments are applied for state-based purposes, because when the vocational expert actually reviews those DOT-based jobs and they go look and say, look at this, okay, there's 15,000 jobs available in the national economy. That doesn't make sense that they'd expect you to move for a $8.90 job to Hawaii where there's available work for it. Their argument would be it's always a constant changing thing, the job is available in all locations. It's not. It's not. Some jobs are. Let me give you a brazen example of a job that's not available en masse in Florida. Logging jobs are not available en masse in Florida compared to Alaska or North Dakota or Wyoming. They're just not, right? They're just not. Or my favorite, when that did pop up and it was a female sitting there, I was like, what? because, females don't usually do logging jobs. They're not, you do see them occasionally in heavy machinery jobs, but you just not often that you're going to see them in a logging position. So the bottom line, that's not being sexist or feminist. That just is what it is. You know what I mean? That's just, guys grow up, getting chain oil and figuring out what their Husqvarna, their, whatever brand they like, whatever brand they prefer, what they're going to be using, because the Husqvarnas have really good top end, but they're not so great for the mid. It doesn't even matter. You guys don't care about that. The point is, when it comes down to certain types of jobs, we should find a way to organize the system where we know what states have what jobs and then compare it to that state, because it shouldn't be the expectation that you have to move out of the state that you're being adjudicated in to go ahead and find a job, to not be disabled if that job exists, because that's not fair. It's not realistic. People shouldn't have to cross state lines to go find a new job. And I get that. That's like, the expectation of the SSA. But a state should be able to provide enough jobs for the inhabitants that it has. A state should be able to provide enough jobs for the inhabitants that it has. Now, look, everybody from California, everybody from New York is moving to Florida because Florida doesn't have the same political stuff. It doesn't have the same, it's also beautiful weather compared to New York. I know all the tri-staters are going, what do you mean? I grew up in New Jersey. Don't. No. I know better than most. So the bottom line is this. New Jersey's hotter than Florida in the summer. New Jersey is colder than Florida in the winter. Same gig with New York. Miserable. Okay? All right. Oh, but New Jersey's terrible, but New York is amazing. Yeah. All right. So why was I not found disabled during 2020 for SSA disability benefits? Element 5, if they could find a job in the national economy that you could potentially do, guess what? Not disabled. It's the cleaver element. Element 5 is the rough element. All right, so we've now covered the basics, the structural of, let's see, did we? We did CALs, we did griddings, we did vocational allowances, and we did listings. So those are the 4 main ways to be found disabled. Why were you not found disabled in 2020? Well, the simple answer is you violated one of those 4 ways, or you did something incredibly stupid that you didn't realize was stupid, or you intentionally did it because you just thought you were being funny or whatever, I don't care. So the point is this. Let me tell you the things that people do, and then we can move on to the things that maybe happened. Things that y'all do that bug me, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, that yellow ghost, whatever the heck it is, all those programs, do not put crap on those. Scrub your online profile. I don't want to see videos of you riding horseback while you have degenerative disc disease. I don't want to see, COPD on your file and then learn that you're a painter, mostly using aerosol cans without a mask on YouTube. I don't want to see that stuff. They want to see it because it's valid to the claim. It is relevant to your adjudication. I don't want to see that stuff. Let's go on to the next thing. I'm working under the table. Look, when you guys work under the table, you are doing it at your own risk. You are doing it with the potential of harm to yourself because you intentionally knew it was going on. Now, I understand you got to eat. There's this. I get it. But realize, give and take, problem is, if you're going to go ahead and go with that route, that's fine. But if they catch you doing it, somebody writes something down in some form that gets reported to the IRS. It's going to pop up. I get the reports. They're called detailed earnings queries, summary earnings queries, certified earnings queries. And these are basically the documentation that we use at the hearing level to adjudicate your claim. Where do these documents come from? They come from the IRS, who's buddies with the Social Security Administration, who sends their queries back to the SSA so that we can use them for an adjudication to understand exactly where, what, when, how you were working. And that new hire query, that tells me right up to the hearing exactly when you were working at what location, what you were earning, and yada, yada, yada. Even tells me the quarter that you were working in. So that's another thing that gets people denied. Testimony during the hearing or testimony on your forms. The number one way people get denied, I'm changing my... All right, before we go into those, let's go into the alleged onset dates. 99% of you guys don't know what an alleged onset date is, which means that you should hire an attorney because you don't know what you're doing and you're going to F it all up. And that's a problem. And I don't like seeing that because some of you guys are genuinely impaired, and part of that impairment is your mental state, and part of your mental state is an unreasonable ego, or it's an unreasonable fear of hiring others who might take advantage of you. Ergo, hire an attorney to work on the AOD. There's a lot of crap disability attorneys out there. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it. They exist, they're out there en masse. There's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is. I'm trying to help you guys. That's more than most of these people doing this stuff. Most people don't work on Friday night or Saturday night or Sunday night or during the day doing this stuff either way. So to be fair, they have to have some sort of life, or they can choose something what I'm doing, which is work overtime to be able to pay off your $425,000 worth of student loans because of who you are as a person. Not like who I am as a person, but who I am as a person, you know. So that's something that is always not pleasant. And who did it to me? Old politicians who just didn't care and said, we're just going to throw this on a particular group of people and let's see what happens. So thanks for that. Anyways, that's why some individuals have to work harder than everybody else all the time and not have the pleasantries of a civilized home life, of a, you know, you're wondering how many kids I don't have any kids. You're wondering girlfriends and the wife and all that. I don't have that stuff because of this stuff. But that's okay. That's not what this video is about. Well, receiving, okay, why was I not found disabled during 2020 for that? Okay, so bottom line is you guys will not know what alleged onset date is. An alleged onset date is the date that you are claiming that you became disabled. And I know you guys are like, oh, I know exactly in my head right around which month that was, probably that year. That's fine. But the most important part that you have to remember is it's when you became disabled under their rules and their regulations. Under their rules and their regulations. Okay. So it's not really up to you. It's more up to when the record shows that you became impaired. If you're one of those like, I'm super disabled, but I can't go to the hospital because I just don't have any money, it's going to be super hard for you to become disabled because you've never proved at any point with objective evidence by going to a hospital and having a doctor state or show that you are impaired. So that's the problem. Your date last insured can be, your alleged onset date can be any date. For SSI up to when you, or back to when you filed. For SSDI, it can be 17 months prior to you filing. There are things that limit that and restrict that, but an attorney will walk you through it. I'm sure I've done an attorney-based video on restrictions of retroactive benefits. You know, you were in jail, or you had a prior denial, or whatever. I'm sure I've done one of those out there. Just Google it, it'll pop up. Okay. I think that a lot of people get denied because they don't have a proper alleged onset date. Alleged onset dates are not as important at the initial filing or reconsideration level. They are terminal to your claim if you screw it up at the hearing level, because judges are not going to want to spend the time to figure out your life and then fix it for you. Some will do it. It's becoming more and more of a rarity, especially with the new younger judges. Okay, because it's not their problem to fix something that you were never going to figure out on your own to fix, but it's not their problem. That sounds unfair. I'm sorry. Would you like ice cream? I don't have any. I can get you some. There you go. So, and again, I'm tired. I work all the time. So if there's somebody out there that's like, oh, you're mean. I'm not mean. I'm just trying to give you the information straight. And some of you get offended by that, which means you need to go watch a different attorney that fluffs up the information and never really teaches you anything about it. There's lots of those videos out there. Or reads from a script. That's fun. Just go to the same website they pulled it from. Anyways, I won't go into that. So we'll receive, okay, so why was I not found? Okay. So now let's talk about, we talked about your alleged onset date. Now let's talk about the stuff that you put on forms. Remember when you were a kid and the principal would say, I want to put this on your permanent record. And you were like, my permanent record? Oh, no. Every form you fill out for the Social Security Administration, is for your permanent record. It exists for the rest of time. Unless it's a medical record, because they only keep those for 7 years. Unless it's a medical record created by a medical expert, CE, then they keep it forever. Or, as long as they want to. They're the government. They make lots of choices on their own. So, what does that mean? It means that when you write down that you go to rock concerts, that you can play guitar, or that you can, sew, or you can do quilting, or you can do XYZ hobbies, that you take care of somebody else's kids, or you have 5 dogs, or whatever. When you write down all these functional things that you can do, you are damning your ability to win disability benefits by and through your lack of knowledge and how the program works, which I can't blame you on. It's so ridiculously complex. It's just unbelievable. So, with that said, everything you write on forms, it's forever. I get a lot of briefs from other big box law firms and some smaller ones too, where the claimants put down some crazy crap on their initial filing forms or their follow-up DDS forms, and I read through it. I'm like, all right, am I gonna take this to appeals counsel because they wrote something that killed their claim on day one. Some of you guys don't realize that you kill your claim on day one. The day one that you file it, you've killed your claim already. Only fix to it is a new filing, and not even that fixes it all the time. So having an attorney that looks over what you're sending in is really important, even though most attorneys that do this stuff won't look it over. I'm one of the few firms that actually files lots of people, whereas a lot of firms out there are like, go file if you get a denial, call us back, or go file and then we'll give them our rep docs. We don't do that. We review the documentation up front to make sure that you have an advantage to be able to be found disabled based upon what is actually impairing your ability to do physical home and work-related tasks. What you say at the hearing is so incredibly important that it will dictate whether the judge does this or whether the judge does this. And I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, the judge will then go back and write that brief about it. No, the judge has a whole team of people that supports what they do. They have writers, they have administrative staff, they have clerks. They've got an entire team of people that work on this. Judges have the capacity to walk out of a hearing with their notes, go talk to the writer and say basically this, or I don't know, go find this evidence that we didn't have in the record, and then I'll let you know. So that's something to consider. That's something that, I forgot this chair is not a good chair. So that's something to consider when you look at the structure of this system, which is that if you don't have an attorney writing questions with you before your hearing, you are going to likely shove your foot so far down your mouth that you're going to have stomach problems for at least a week. I remember too, this is one of those things that you've probably waited 2.5 to 3 years to actually go to, right? So you've probably waited 2.5 to 3 years. You've definitely waited an associate's degree. You might even have waited a bachelor's degree, or maybe a master's degree worth of time. So it's one of those things where people are like, I'm gonna go Rambo this thing. I'm thinking to myself, well, I'll get a call from them about appeals counsel stuff, and then we'll go from there. Why was I not found disabled during the 2020 year for SSA disability benefits? Another thing is they'll catch you in trick questions. I made a whole thing like the top 50 ALJ trick questions. If they trick you with one of these and catch you off guard and you give testimony, then pretty much at that point you're in a tough situation. If you're not sure what administrative law judge trick questions are, just go ahead and watch those videos. It's a huge amount of information of the 50 most used ALJ trick questions. So it's good. If you have a hearing coming up, you better watch it because, frankly, you're going to learn all the little secrets and tricks. It's not all of them, but it's the main ones. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about let's see, why. Remember, I don't make a list of reasons like some of these other attorneys do. I make so many videos that I just have to go from my brain, and luckily I have a decent brain, so I can usually come up with stuff on the spot to be able to go ahead and give you the information. So why were you not found disabled during the 2020 SSA disability system? Let me think. Okay, so there's another thing. not submitting forms in a timely fashion. You guys will tend to put things off because you will basically go ahead and, you'll just put things off because that's your depression, anxiety-based impairment, and it limits you and yada yada. So you don't submit something in the proper time, and then you get a simple, quick technical denial. Those are really usually easy to fix so long as they're not that far off into I just didn't care land and they're a year and a half later or 2 years. And what happens with those is basically, to put it simply, you forget to go ahead and file some DDS documentation. They give you a denial, technical denial due to lack of documentation, or they just give you a medical denial because they adjudicated it with what they had on file. And then at that point, you have to go ahead and appeal. And let's say that you don't appeal within the prescribed 60-day period plus 5 days mailing. That's what you get. Then at that point, you have to use 4.911 statute to go ahead and extend the 60 days to go ahead and continue forward with using that claim. So that's another reason why you could have been denied. There are those two types of denials. There's the medical denial, which is what you're wanting to actually have if you're going to have a denial. And then there's the technical denial, which means you just didn't follow something in the step-by-step process. There's a lot of people, and I don't know why it is, who feel very strongly that they are competent with handling the administrative process of disability benefits. There's a small percentage of you that actually navigate this properly. And of that small percentage that actually do it right, it's slim. You make it through because somebody on the SSA helped you, or somebody on my end helped you with figuring out how to get through this, or that. A lot of you guys are like, oh, this guy was found disabled in 3 weeks. And then you realize, well, he's got stage 4 cancer. He's going to die in 6 months. Oh, no, my buddy's not that disabled. So there's another thing that you need to realize. This is a really important part about why was I not found disabled during 2020. This is the why were you found disabled in 2020. There are certain DDS reps and certain judges that are more likely to find you disabled than not. There are judges and DDS reps that have higher approval rate percentages that basically, you'll go through with some, you won't go through with others. So, for that reason, it means that, you're in this structured situation where you could get a judge that's really, really high percent passage rate and be found disabled, or you could get a really low percent passage rate judge and not be found disabled. The way you can kind of look up the judges is go to disabilityjudges.com. I'm not sure if it's .com or .net. I forget. I think it's .com. But anyways, I'm so tired right now because it's late. We're coming up on 12 at night. So what that means is that you can look up their percent passage rate. Now, when you see all of their percent stuff, the one you're looking for, just so you understand it, is the percent of approval, or their approval rate percentage. You're looking for anything that's around 47% or higher. If you have something that's still in the 40s, that's good. If you have something in the 30s, that's bad. If you have something in the 20s, good luck, buddy. Good luck. Good luck. That's basically all I can say. Why was I not found disabled during 2020 for SSA disability benefits? Let's see if there's another reason. There's so many. You could have too much earnings for SSI to get on the poverty program. You could have not enough work credits for SSDI benefits. You could potentially have a life insurance policy that has the output, it's too high for SSI benefits. You could have too many cars for SSI benefits with, and you could have multiple cars. It's just a $4,500 rule that applies. You could have more than one house and not be able to go on SSI benefits. For SSDI benefits, you could win the lottery the month before and then apply for disability benefits, and it doesn't matter. They're not concerned about how much money you have in the bank. That's just not a concern of SSDI benefits because you paid into the system. You're going on to a disability insurance system as opposed to a general Superfund poverty program for people who didn't work and earn and pay into the system for whatever reason. Okay. So those are a lot of the reasons why you could have not been found disabled in 2020 for Social Security disability benefits. If you have any questions, you want the most up-to-date information, you're curious about something in particular, that's fine. Shoot me an email or give me a call, and we will go from there. All right? Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.